Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about 3 ways to help your marketing team stay ahead of the curve with Looker. We'll start off with a little background about why I think Looker is more relevant today for digital marketers than it has ever been before. Then I'll talk about some of the things we've built recently into the product to support digital marketing teams and share some examples of how marketing teams are using these tools today. The first product I'll cover are the blocks we've built for web event data sets using our Google Analytics 4 block as an example. Then we'll walk through actions we've recently launched for first-party data activation into advertising platforms. And finally, I'll cover a few other new Looker features that I think you and the marketers that you work with may benefit from. I'm sure there are entire conferences dedicated to the continually impending deprecation of third-party cookies, and we're not going to go too deep on that today. But if it's something that you're not familiar with, the bottom line is that both browsers and governments are cracking down on how much ad networks can track people's behavior across the internet. A lot of these changes have already been put in place, but the big event that the marketing world is planning for is the blocking of third-party cookies by Google Chrome, which has about 2/3 of the global browser market share, which is slated for 2023. So what does this mean for marketers? The bottom line is that in a cookieless world, measurement will be less rich. So your ad network can no longer tell you that the person who visited your site today is the same person that saw your ad they displayed for you 3 days ago. And it also means that targeting will be less precise. So you'll no longer be able to simply ask your ad network or your DSP to serve ads to people who visited your site if you yourself don't know who those people are. And this is where Looker comes in. Today we're going to talk about how companies can use Looker to A, understand their customers better, which can inform marketing decisions at a strategic level, and B, use customer level data, your own customer data, for targeting. This means providing publishers and ad networks with more information about your actual customers and users so they can target those specific people and people like them on your behalf. And before we move on, I want to make one clarification and provide one disclaimer. So for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say first-party data, here's a definition. First-party data is data that you collect from your customers and visitors. It's not data you buy or data that is shared with you by somebody else, whether that be a partner or an ad network or publisher you're displaying ads through. Basically, it's the data you probably have in Looker, your transactions, your CRM data, your product usage data. And then for that disclaimer, using first-party data for digital measurement and strategy and targeting represents a mindset shift, and it's not a one-for-one replacement for the targeting and measurement that marketers are doing today using third-party cookies. Unfortunately, the measurement and targeting tools enabled by third-party cookie tracking were incredibly powerful and continue to be so through the end of 2023. So when third-party cookies go away, there isn't any one technology that's going to fully replace them. Using first-party data is therefore part of a larger, diverse marketing strategy to make digital ad spend as profitable as it can be in a cookieless world. I'm here today talking about Looker, but there are lots of other technologies out there that do use shared or proprietary data sets, i.e. third-party data sets as well. Data exchanges are a really good example of that. There also will continue to be native measurement and targeting tools within the platforms that DSPs provide to digital marketers. And you're never going to use Looker to replace those tools. Everything that I talk about today are tools that your digital marketers can use to better understand your first-party data alongside the workflows that they participate in third-party tools to increase digital marketing ROI overall. As I mentioned, the first set of tools we'll talk about today are the blocks that Looker has developed for web event data sets. I've been at Looker for 7 years, and web event data has always been a real sweet spot for using Looker blocks. Web event data has 2 major qualities that make blocks really powerful. First, web event data is complicated. It's big and it's really detailed, and that size and complexity make it difficult to know where to start when you've got a blank canvas of look 'em out. And things like sessionization, which group multiple user interactions like click and events into a single visit that you can measure and count, really isn't that simple. Finally, when you want to ask even more complex questions, like understanding the paths that users took to traverse your site, you quickly get into SQL that can be hundreds of lines long if you're trying to write it yourself. And although that data is complex, the format and questions companies ask of their web event data is really similar. The data sets provided by vendors like GA, like Segment, have consistent schemas from customer to customer. If you have a website or app, you probably care about common but complicated to compute things like sessionization, funnels, and conversion rates that I mentioned. And just a little bit of customization can go a really long way. For example, once you define the particular event that you associate with a purchase or some other conversion activity on your site, you can immediately use that alongside all of the complex pre-built tools that live in the rest of the block. Today I'm going to do a deep dive into the new block we've launched for Google Analytics 4. But a lot of the concepts I'll talk about are still relevant if you're using another web event system and putting that data into a database and setting Looker on top of it. I'm particularly excited about Google Analytics 4 because it delivers full event level data from your site into Bigquery for free. Prior to Google Analytics 4, if you were a GA customer, you had to pay for Google Analytics 360 for a subscription to it to get your data into Bigquery. I will note that you still have to pay for the storage and compute costs in Bigquery if you do turn the feature on, but you don't have to pay a subscription just to get the data there. These are three of the dashboards that really represent the greatest hits in the block and great patterns for you to review even if you aren't a Google Analytics 4 customer. The GA Overview dashboard is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pretty close replica to what you'd see in the actual GA console, but having it in Looker provides a lot of opportunities for self-service exploration and just makes it accessible to a wider variety of people in your organization. The custom goal conversion dashboard solves a specific need we've heard from GA customers, which is tracking conversions against a specific event types on your property historically. This dashboard lets you pick which event you want to define as conversion, maybe an add to cart event, a purchase event, or some leveling up in a game, and see a full historical performance of that metric, that conversion, on your site. And last are our funnel dashboards. The funnels we built in the GA block have forwards and backward 6-step funnels, but there's really no limit to how deeply you can track user paths if you're willing to make a little bit of customization in the LookML. And of course, all of these dashboards provide a launching point for users to ask more questions that go beyond just what we've put into these dashboards, as well as build new content from the Explore that we've built, which has a really rich set of dimensions and measures based on top of the GA extract for Bigquery. Digging into the LookML in the block a little bit, there are a few recently launched LookML features we've incorporated that are worth mentioning. If you've deployed a block in the past and dealt with the complicated system of extensions that they've used, which make it a little bit difficult to customize them, in our new blocks, including the GA4 one, we've introduced a system using refinements rather than extensions. These make it tremendously easier to modify the model to add your own fields, joins, and explores. We're releasing all new blocks with this structure and slowly migrating old blocks to it as well, which is going to make block customization much easier going forward. As you might imagine, event data can also be pretty large. And we do have a PDT built into the GA4 block, but it uses the newly launched incremental PDTs to cut down on processing time and cost in Bigquery. So if you're looking for an example of how to build an incremental PDT, this block's a good place to look. The block also contains sample code for building a BQML model to predict user purchases. Building a predictive model in Bigquery and managing it with Looker makes getting predictive insights into the hands of your users much easier than it would be if you were building a whole separate ML pipeline for it. We'll talk about some concrete examples of how to use these BQML models in a little bit. And I'd be remiss if I didn't spend a little bit of time talking about nested fields in Bigquery and how they benefit web event data. With the ability to store semi-structured data and repeated data in structs and arrays in Bigquery, you don't have to make trade-offs between performance of your queries and the detail you want to store about your user behavior. Furthermore, when you query these fields, you only access the specific elements you need, which means you don't take a performance hit just to store and query that data. And I really can't understate the degree to which nested data simplifies complex analytical queries against event data. When it comes to things like funnels, conversions, and relationships between events like duration or pause times within a session, the nested data structures in Bigquery lets you perform single pass queries for analyses that almost in any other database would take multiple CTEs or temporary tables to be able to calculate. You can build all of these in simple LookML dimensions and measures, which is really, really powerful for doing sophisticated analysis on web event data. I could spend a whole session just nerding out about this stuff and the things you can do with web event data and other nested data sets in Bigquery, but we'll move on for now. If it is something that interests you, I definitely encourage you to take a look at our GA360 and GA4 blocks. They have some really great examples of how to access nested data in Bigquery in powerful ways using LookML. One customer whose marketing team is using Looker on their web event data is a Fortune 500 pharmaceutical company. They make products like over-the-counter medicines and hair and skincare products. Since their products are sold through retailers, they historically haven't collected much of their own data about their customers. Over the past several years, however, they've launched several websites and blogs to both provide information about their products to their customers, but also learn more about the interests and product interests of their customers firsthand, rather than having to collect that information from the retailers they work with. As part of that effort, they're using Looker to consolidate web event data from over a dozen different web properties for each of their brands. With that data in one place, their marketing team is able to draw links between product categories to inform their marketing strategy. So as an example, if they know that people visiting a hair regrowth product site are probably men in their 30s and 40s, they can look at the other sites that those same visitors visit to understand what other products that demographic is interested in. That will help them build a more targeted ad campaign instead of creatives for that given user demographic. Collecting this data themselves is helping this CPG decrease their dependence on data, third-party data, from the retailers that they work with when setting their digital marketing strategy. The second product area I'm going to focus on today are the tools we've built for first-party data activation in Looker. As a product, Looker really excels in areas where people need to make decisions to do their jobs every day. I call these operational use cases. Those operational use cases might be for strategic decision making for marketers, like looking at products that are frequently purchased together to inform what images to use in their ads. It could also be used for making tactical marketing decisions, like tracking inventory of seasonal items and increasing ad spend in regions where inventory is high to get those seasonal items out the door before they come out of season. Or it might help make automated decisions to target customers who are lapsed from your site. And that's really what I mean by data activation. When I talk about activating first-party data, I mean taking data from Looker, lists of users, and sending them into tools to actually communicate with those specific people. You might already be doing that today, sending data into Braze or Marketo for customer marketing campaigns. Let's say you're a subscription product and you launch a new low-cost tier for price-sensitive customers. You might go into Looker, find all of the users that signed up for a free trial in the last year but didn't buy your old product, and send that list into Marketo, let's say, to launch an email marketing campaign for them. An example of a customer doing really exactly that is Car Next Door, an Australian peer-to-peer car rental company. They're using Looker to push in-app notifications to their end customers. So if there is a surplus of convertibles in a specific region, for example, they'll use Looker to find customers in that area who have rented convertibles in the past. Then they'll send that list of customers into Segment and onto Braze to surface those specific users an in-app offer, maybe a discount for a Mustang rental this weekend. This summer, we launched 2 new destinations for these activation use cases that are specifically targeted for digital marketers, not just customer marketers. The first is an integration with Customer Match. Customer Match is Google's tool for advertising on a one-to-one basis to users within Google's logged-in products, so users of Gmail, Search, YouTube, and Shopping. Once a marketer has sent a list of these users, so email addresses or some other identifier, into Google Ads, maybe they'll send in players of our mobile game who play mostly in the middle of the night. Not only can marketers target those individual users with specific ads, you can also expand those audiences to people that Google has identified as being similar or having similar interests to those users of yours. Conversely, you can also use Customer Match to exclude users for campaigns. So if you're running a new customer acquisition campaign, you can use Customer Match to exclude your existing customer base from those campaigns to avoid paying to show those people ads. If they're already using your product anyway, why do you need to advertise to them? The second action that we've built is an action for data import in Google Analytics, which works similarly, but lets you provide additional information about your site's visitors into Google Analytics to then inform downstream campaigns. In both of these cases, Looker lets marketers easily create bespoke lists of customers based on your first-party data and send those lists into Google Ads. This use of internal first-party data for targeting is becoming increasingly important for marketers who can no longer rely on the native targeting tools that ad networks have traditionally provided because those were based on third-party cookies. We've launched these first two native integrations with Google Ads APIs, but through integration tools like Braze or Zapier, you can do the same thing with other ad networks that have logged-in users like LinkedIn, Facebook, and others. My last customer example for today is from a global brick-and-mortar beauty care retailer. They're using Looker and Customer Match to introduce their customers to new products that they think they might like. In Looker, they've built tiers which indicate whether a customer usually buys low, medium, or high price point products. And every week, Looker sends those 3 customer lists into Google Ads. Also in Looker, they identify the most popular products within each user tier. So they might find that mid-price customers really seem to love a particular brand of eyeshadow. And with all of that information, the lists pushed to Google Ads, the information about what the products those customers might be interested in are, they can design an ad campaign highlighting those popular products to the next lowest tier to introduce those customers to products at higher price points. So a customer currently buying low price tier eyeshadow will be exposed to campaigns that promote that mid-price brand. I really love this example because it highlights multiple points where first-party data can be used to inform marketing strategy. It's used to first determine the appropriate bounds for those customer tiers, then to pass those lists of customers onto an ad platform on an automated basis, and finally, it's used to determine what products to promote to each of those tiers. So hopefully some of the examples and tools that I've shared with you today will be valuable for you and the marketing teams that you work with. Before we go, I want to share with you a handful of features that Looker has launched recently that I think will be particularly useful for marketing audiences and non-technical audiences in general. The first is the marketplace. The GA4 block that I mentioned earlier is available in the marketplace today, and if you've never installed the block from the marketplace, many of them really just take a few clicks to get set up. Even if you only use the LookML and the blocks as inspiration for your own models, I definitely recommend taking a look at them. We've compiled a lot of knowledge into those blocks for lots of common data sources. The marketplace also has common visualization types you can install in your Looker instance for specialized use cases. The Sankey visualization is one of our more popular ones for pathing analysis on web event data. And we've also begun launching new custom user experiences in the marketplace built on Looker's extension framework. A great first one to deploy is the data dictionary, which reads through your LookML model and provides an easy-to-use, searchable reference catalog of definitions for your end users. The second feature I want to share with you are quick starts. Quick starts are pre-built queries you can make available in any Explorer. They demonstrate the power of that Explorer, giving a user a preset list of common queries so they can load without having to add all of the dimensions and measures themselves. They offer a soft landing for new explorers because it can be less intimidating, especially at first, to tweak an existing analysis rather than building one entirely from scratch. And even for seasoned users, they save a lot of time and make your analyses faster and less repetitive. The last thing we've seen them used for really commonly are one-click access to common filter sets that people use in queries. When we talk about Looker being a data platform rather than just a BI tool, we're referring to a lot of the things I've talked about today. Actions are a really good example of how we hope to support our customers use data in every decision that gets made within their organizations. The extension framework is a really exciting next step in Looker's growth as a data platform. It's a framework for building fully custom JavaScript data applications that live inside Looker. The extension framework provides a developer with hosting, authentication, authorization, and access to Looker's API and library of UI components from which they can build their own custom experiences. You can also call out to external services to support rich interactivity with downstream systems. The Data Dictionary app that I mentioned earlier is a really good example of the types of things that you can build with the extension framework, and it is available for you to play with in the marketplace. I can even envision a customer building a custom UI for digital marketers to create and manage first-party audiences, and then manage sending those to a wide variety of downstream ad systems, all in one spot in an easy interface within Looker. Just to be clear, not something that exists today, but it really gives you a picture of the possibilities that can be built within the extension framework. We're really excited to see what you and the rest of our Looker customers and partners do with the extension framework now that it's available. That's everything I wanted to share with you today. Thanks for taking the time.